Welcome back to the Daily Deuce after a long hiatus. I'm Gary Graves from just outside Louisville, Kentucky, and in Maryland, John Webster. Welcome back, man. It's been too long. It's good to see you again, and it's good to be seen again.
Hey Gary, it's good to be seen. Thanks for the intro. I will just say, great to be back. We have been on hiatus. The reason for the hiatus, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I had surgery back on February 27th. The great news is there was no need for chemo, no need for radiation, and they were able to get all the cancer from my prostate. So that's the great news. Thank you to, of course, Kim, JR, and Dante. They held it down and made sure I didn't do anything stupid and made sure I followed the doctor's orders. But there's too many people to even name. But thank you to everybody else for your calls. Thank you for your emails. Thank you for your text. And thank you for your visits. And thank you for your prayers. Greatly appreciated. And it is great to be back doing the Daily Deuce.
Yep. And we're definitely thankful to the man upstairs for making it happen, man. You know, for giving you the doctors, giving you the will to get through this. You know, John, I don't know if you believe in the whole type A personality thing, but I've always known you to be a strong-willed person. So I'm not surprised that, you know, you've done the daggone work to get it done.
Well, I appreciate it, man. But two things. Well, first of all, we haven't said hi to the sidekick, John Pitt. Pitt, how you doing, man?
Man, it's been that long. I'm the traffic cop, not the sidekick. I forgot my name. Hey, it's great to see you both, man. I'm glad to be back on the Daily Deuce here. Now, John, it wasn't all bad. Don't lie. We have March Madness, so you got to at least some basketball in during that time, right?
Yeah, the crazy thing is Kim won again as always. She picked it by uniform colors and nicknames. So hey, congratulations to her. Won our bracket at home.
Hard to argue against blue and white in some of these things, man. I mean, and those aren't my colors, you know, but it just seemed like any team that was rolling in this tournament was wearing blue and white, blue or white.
Yeah, they sure were.
Yeah, yeah.
What's been kicking around, Gary, with sports, man? Anything really topping it off right now we need to hit on real quick?
Oh man, I tell you, I'm kind of scrambling for activities. Excuse me, for developments to talk about. Oh yeah, something happened there in your backyard, my hometown. The Washington Commanders finally may have an owner, which finally might mean the end of the reign, the long, ignominious reign of one Daniel Snyder as owner. John, you know, I'm not going to say that I'm overjoyed about this. It's more relief because as someone who grew up following first the Washington Redskins, then let's see, the Washington football team, and now the Washington Commanders, and going from fan to, let's just say, follower. And all of this has been since he took over the team in '99. That I'm just relieved. I look forward to to Josh Harris owning this team, hopefully restoring some of the pride and really reintroducing this franchise to a generation that has known nothing but bad football. They can't even identify with with this team. And probably, it's probably why there's so many Dallas Cowboy, New England Patriot, Green Bay Packer fans in the Washington area. Nobody I know of a certain generation follows whatever name the football team is. Is that a fair assessment?
It's fair. It was quite a day yesterday. A lot of people, majority of people, very happy with what's transpiring. You still got to wait and make sure, Gary, because even though it's I think a non-exclusive deal, still had to get it approved by the other NFL owners. That will happen hopefully in May. So we'll see. You know, and it's always that chance, a very slim chance that somebody could swoop in at the last minute and give a better deal. and Snyder could take that. You know, you look at he's been here since 1999 with the team. Now it's 2022. What's that? 24 years that he's had the team, and they have been mired in mediocrity. But also, you got two playoff wins, two playoff wins. But the other thing you got to look at,
Oh yeah,
as bad,
6 playoff appearances in that time.
6 playoff appearances, 2 wins in 24 years. As bad and as dismal as Snyder was as an owner, it's not all his fault. And I tell you what I mean by that before you jump on my case. He wasn't the one tackling people. He wasn't the one throwing passes. He wasn't the one running for touchdowns or having interceptions, fumbling. It wasn't him. My point is this: no matter what owner you get here, the product on the field still has to improve. It has to improve tremendously. So, again, Snyder was quite the person, and the franchise will be much better, I think, moving forward. But the product on the field still has to improve, Gary. You still got to improve. You still got to find a way to have you got players there. You got Terry McLaurin there. You have Brian Robinson there. And then on the defense, the front seven on defense, Chase Young, DeRon Payne, John Allen, Martez Sweat, and the linebackers. You got good front seven. Why can't they put it together and win? That's what needs to happen next. Ron Rivera, I think, will get another shot at proving his point, proving his worth. I think it's too late in the process now to go get a new coach because you're almost up. The draft is what? The end of this month?
Yeah, the draft is like what? 7 days away, 6 days away. So
you got to pretty much got to pretty much go with what you have.
Yeah,
and make a go of it. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens. But kudos to, if it is Josh Harris and Mr. Rails, kudos to them, and also Mr. Magic Johnson is part of that ownership group as well. So we'll see what happens, and there are a lot of questions still to be answered, Gary. You know, as far as what's going to happen. Some people are asking about the name. Do you keep the name? Do you change the name? Whatever. But the biggest thing is Snyder is going to be moving on, and you can look at a new day. But as you look at a new day, you still got to have a new day on that field as well.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything you said, John. The way I've looked at it, and again, as optimistic as as easy as it is to be optimistic about yesterday's news, that we also have to pump the brakes and be realistic for the things that you mentioned. The roster, whoever wins the sweepstakes inherits the roster, inherits the payroll, inherits the coaching staff. This is not the time to make changes. Given how they played last year, there is something to build on. It isn't like it was a dumpster fire, but it's not a heap of ashes that the new ownership has taken over. That's the good news. The thing is, well, and one other reason to be optimistic is that Josh Harris owns the Philadelphia 76ers, which are seeded third in the Eastern Conference in the NBA playoffs that start this weekend. We'll get into that. His New Jersey Devils are number 2 seeded in the Eastern Conference in the NHL playoffs. So you have 2 examples there of an owner that spends money, that builds winners. And with New Jersey in particular, the Devils, as a hockey fan myself, it's good to see them really back up among the main contenders for the Stanley Cup, because it seemed like it had been a long while. And that's a franchise deal. It had Hall of Famers like Lou Lamoriello, and John Thompson talked about them all the time as like being the model franchise, and that's, in a city where, where he was also a Washington Capitals fan, which says something about the front office there. What I do think we need to pump the brakes, because it's going to be probably a couple of years before we really see some on-field improvement. Now, Rivera, again, looking at how they finished last year, almost making the playoffs, that if they can stay the course, get a quarterback, make another addition on the offense and defensive lines, really just shore up and be smart about how you spend your money in free agency. I mean, all of that sounds very, very basic, but this team has stumbled at the basics. Get a really good football guy in there. Again, you probably know more about the guy in charge than I do, but really just get somebody in there who understands that. Like with Snyder, I always thought his thing was going about getting the name that's out there. It was almost like he was running a fantasy football league team. In retrospect, now that it seems like we're about to transition to new ownership, I really question how serious he was about putting a winning product on the field. And I'll say this: the thing with the NFL, the worst team always turns a profit, has turned a profit, like I'd say, for 50 years. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the Culver Houses were one of the laughing stocks of the NFL, but turned a profit. We're one of the few teams to turn a profit because of a low payroll, because of the TV contract, all of those things. So then when the Glazers come in and take over and figure, yeah, we turned a profit, but if we make this team, a winning team, our profit margin, our bottom line increases, and you see what has happened since then. And the Bucks are probably under new ownership, under different ownership since then. But I'm looking back to when I was in Florida during the '90s, and they brought on Tony Dungy as coach, and everything has just been different. But I think a lot of it has to do with how serious is this owner about really putting a good product on the field, as opposed to, say, just making money. Because the number that I saw with Dan Snyder, that he's going to get a 700% return on his investment after paying $800 million for their team in 1999. Hey, good for him. Now take the money and run.
Well, you said a lot of things there, Gary. I know one of the things that whoever, if it's the Harris group that's going to come in and own the team, you have to look also at, in my opinion, the coach cannot also be the general manager.
No.
I think there are many times that Ron Rivera, the general manager, is in conflict with Ron Rivera, the head coach. I think those two positions need to be separate. It may not happen this year. I tell you what, I'll be honest with you, and we probably don't have enough time to talk about this. If I'm Ron Rivera and I have to prove myself, I really got to make a big splash this year. I really have to win. I'm not putting all my coins and dominoes in the box with Sam Howell. I'm the general manager. I'm making a call right up the Baltimore Parkway, and I'm going to put a deal and a proposal together to the Baltimore Ravens for racing car number 8. I'm going to do all I can. There's probably not enough time to talk about it now, but if I'm Ron Rivera and I know this year is it, I'm going to do all I can. I'm not rolling with a rookie or a second-year quarterback. That kid up in Baltimore, there's a little consternation going on there on both sides. I'll put up the best offer I can. What do I have to lose?
Nothing. As sexy as that sounds, John, I think anything and everything is on the table. I mean, really, why not? That would be a huge splash for Washington. That would be a huge splash, I'd say, really for the NFL, because I think the NFL wants wants Washington to be competitive because they were once a storied marquee elite franchise. Well,
And to
before
have them, to have
before
them
before
back,
1999 at least.
yeah, and to have them back in the middle of things. Think back to the '80s, man. I can go all the way back to George Allen. I can go back to Vince Lombardi when they were 7-5-2. You still wanted to look at them on Sunday afternoon. You wanted to see what was going to happen with Sonny Jurgens at quarterback in '69 and '70. Then you bring it up to George Allen. Then you bring it up to Jack Pardee. Then you bring it up to Joe Gibbs. They were a part of the NFC East, and they were looked upon as a contender. Nothing is more sad to me than you look at this Washington franchise and they're playing the Philadelphia Eagles, or they're playing the Dallas Cowboys, or they're playing the New York Giants. And half to three-fourths of the stadium is full with Eagles, Cowboys, and Giants fans.
And that's being generous, calling it full too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, but I get your point. And again, I blame a lot of that on Snyder because I think it got to a point where this team was just so unwatchable that not only were fans not buying tickets, the fans who had season tickets were selling them to the other team's fans. I mean, I just cannot fathom that happening. And I think back, John, to I'll say I remember 2008 when I was recovering from surgery, and I went to a Washington preseason game. Well, actually, there were two games, but there was a regular season game where they played the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I swear I saw more black and gold or black and yellow in the stands than I saw burgundy and gold.
Yeah.
There were two guys. It's like I was surrounded by Steeler fans, and and the thing about that, the Steeler fans were more than happy to travel from Pennsylvania and parts unknown to come here because it was easier to buy a ticket, cheaper to buy a ticket here than it was to buy a ticket, go to a Steelers game in Pittsburgh. Because again, remember at that time they had a relatively new stadium. They were coming off, I guess they were just 2 years removed from a Super Bowl title. So, they were the hot thing. And their thing was traveling to, other cities to watch the team. It's still that way here near Cincinnati, although there are more people, more locals buying Bengals tickets. And that's significant to me in terms of of long term because the Bengals have always been known as one of the cheaper outfits, but it's somewhere along the line. Mike Brown just said, let's draft a local guy. Let's build, let's just try to build this team the right way and look at where they are.
I agree. Well, we have a lot to look forward to, Gary. So let's see what happens in the coming days, the coming weeks, and the coming months.
I hope so. I don't even care what the name is. I'll even learn to like the name Commanders if if I have to. But just bring the pride back. That's all I gotta say. John. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm even more excited about the NBA playoffs starting in earnest this weekend. We have a couple of elimination games tonight, play-in games. To me, that just determines, who's probably going to be the first round whipping boy for Denver and for Milwaukee in the respective conferences. And again, that's fine, but I think some of these first round matchups are really, really intriguing. The one that really has my interest the most in the Western Conference between Sacramento and Golden State. Sacramento is the 3rd seed. Golden State is the 6th seed. Golden State is driving for 5, but man, the Sacramento Kings, I never thought I would say that's a team you don't want to face right now.
Gary, this is what I'll say to you. And Dante and I have been having spirited conversations about this over the last week to 10 days.
I can imagine.
So I like Golden State. I think they are just a good team, but a great organization.
Mm-hmm.
But I also am a believer that you cannot turn your switch on and off where you can just get ready to play all of a sudden. What do I mean by that? This whole season, Golden State has been one of the worst road teams in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
They've also been one of the worst defensive teams on the road in the NBA. Okay, so it said to me, John, they didn't have everybody. Sometimes they're missing Wiggins, sometimes they've been missing Curry, sometimes Draymond Green may be injured, Iguodala is still out, what have you. But also, I will say to counter that also means your continuity isn't there. Continuity is not something that you turn on and off. The last week, the last 10 days, they have begun to get everybody back and they have continuity. It will be an exciting series because Golden State is a champion and they're not going to go out easy. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think they'll beat Sacramento. I think De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, they are a great 1-2 punch. And a former Golden State Warrior, Harrison Barnes, they're tough. Mike Brown has done a great job coaching them. It's hard to turn it on and off. This Golden State team, my goodness, they're one of the best ever. Come on, man. You look at Looney at the center. You got Draymond Green. Draymond Green is a unique person. He does so many great things on the court, defensively, offensively. He totally understands the game. He thinks it. He knows it. But Gary, still, you can't flick that switch on and off. It is hard. I hope I'm wrong. Sacramento in 6. And I'll also say this. Golden State is a number 6 seed. Mm-hmm. That means that they will never be a home team for anybody above them. That also means you have to win a game on the road.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they can do it.
All of what you said and then some, John. Sacramento is a hungry team, and just the games that the couple of games that I've seen, with Fox, Malik Monk, remind me of when they were at Kentucky, and they had, let's see, I want to say that was like probably the 2015, 2016 season. No, it might be 2016, 2017. Well, it was a year where they went to the Elite Eight and faced North Carolina. And that was a really good game. Luke May beats them, with that late winning shot. And that was a team that I really thought would go deep. As it happens, they're paired together. They've got a great coach, of course, the NBA Coach of the Year in Mike Brown, and he has turned that team around. And it's not just that he's turned the team around, John. He's turned the culture around, which is what he's known for. I've never seen a coach, rarely have seen a coach, I'll say, that has done more with less than Mike Brown. Now, nobody can do more with a lot less, but he at least has something to build on there. But beyond those two guys and Harrison Barnes that you mentioned, who else can you name on that roster? I really can't. I'm going to learn about it this weekend, but I feel like that has got to be one of the more intriguing series because everything you said about Golden State, I do think Golden State is good enough to win that series, but like you said, it's not a switch that you flick on and off. And when you were talking about Draymond Green, I just kept having these flashbacks to Dennis Rodman. Not quite the same type of player, but the things that he does when they need him to, and he's an irritant on top of that. That like I said, that when you face them, you think about Curry. You think about Klay Thompson and then Draymond. He's often the third one. All three of them live rent free in opponents' heads, and that's the thing that Sacramento has to guard against in this season, in this series. Don't let them live rent free in your heads. Do what you've done all year and prove people wrong again.
I will say this. If Sacramento lets up off the gas pedal and they don't have a lot of experience in the playoffs, if they allow Golden State to sneak a win in these first two,
Mm-hmm.
Golden State can do it. I don't think they will, but if you don't pay attention to them, there's a guy on that Golden State team named Curry. There's a guy on that Golden State team named Thompson. They are two elite ball players and two of the best shooters and scorers in the NBA. If you let them get a game in Sacramento, you're going to have a problem. You're going to have a serious problem.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. So, what team don't you trust in these playoffs? I think I know the answer, but I want to hear it.
What team do I not trust?
Right.
In the East or the West?
Either one.
In the West, you're going to think I'm crazy. I'm shaky about Memphis.
Understood.
They are going to play the Lakers, and that can be a matchup problem for Memphis. Let me explain to you why. Their center, Steven Adams, is out for the season. So that means now you have Anthony Davis down in that post area. He's going to be able to do different things and be free to roam. Also, LeBron James is able to basically play 5 different positions on the court. That excuse me, that's a problem because that's a matchup. Who do you put on? You put Dylan Brooks on him? Really? That's not going to really work. So you put, what's the other guy's name? Bane? You going to put Bane on him? Or do you put Jaren Jackson on him and get him in foul trouble? D'Angelo Russell plays very well. Also, the trades that they made at the trading deadline by adding Rui Hashimura from used to be with the Wizards. You got Schroeder there. They are a team that can be dangerous. Now, granted, they played terrible against Minnesota the other night. By all standards, they should have lost.
Yeah.
But they pulled it out. And that's a team, the Lakers, that I don't want to play. I'll give you one other team that I think is shaky. More shaky, in my opinion, than Memphis. That's Denver. I'm not
I thought that's who you'd say first, honestly.
Well, I'm saying Memphis because I think they've had some adjustments they've had to make over the season. They've had some couple of bumps in the road, and now you have that injury bug hitting them, and that's a problem. And you're playing against the Lakers team, against a guy like LeBron James who knows how to win, who knows how to will his team to win. You don't want to really face that. That's why I say Memphis in that series. If I'm Memphis, that's the one team I didn't want to play as the Lakers, because if you have AD and LeBron rolling and cooking well, that's a problem. That's a recipe for failure for your team to lose a game. Now, when you go up at Denver and you look at Jokic and you look at Murray, that's a good team. But in my opinion, that's not a championship team. That's a good play. That's a good regular season, a good playoff team. That's not a championship team.
Yeah. I think we had a conversation recently, John, where we both harkened back to the Nuggets in ABA days where they would win 65, 70 games or something like that and then get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. I can't even recall whether they even played for an ABA championship. I might be wrong.
They did play for an ABA championship. Doug Moe, I think, no, wait a minute. Back then, I think it may have been Larry Brown coaching in the ABA. When they got to the NBA, it was Doug Moe. And then as they moved on, for a while they had David Thompson, and then they moved and remember Fats Lever, Lafayette Lever. They had Fats Lever on the team, and he was leading them. You know, they've had good teams, but they've in the NBA they've never won a championship. I think they won the ABA championship once. I know one year, and another player that they had was Bobby Jones on the ABA team, and that was the year they were really favored to win. And a guy named Julius Irving and the Nets, the New York Nets and New Jersey Nets, I don't know which one they were, but they were the Nets, knocked them out and won the series in 6.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I want to see what they do in the first round before I really want to believe in them. I don't think that
They'll get to the
I
first
don't think
round.
they'll lose this round. They did, and I was checking. They did win. Oh, wait a minute. No, they did not win an ABA championship. Denver.
They
They
got to the
played.
championship game and lost to the Nets.
Yeah, they played 1976 and lost to. Let's see, yeah, they were the runners up in 1976, and yep, lost to the New York Nets and Julius Irving. That was
4 games to 2.
Yep, yep. That was like what the last ABA championship, right?
That was the last ABA game played before the merger.
Yep, yep. So now here in Louisville, I'm kind of nostalgic for the Kentucky Colonels. It's like every time I go into Freedom Hall, I swear I can just see Artis Gilmore and Dan Issel and Hubie Brown, bouncing around in there, and with having an NBA caliber arena but no team in it, it's like it's one of those things where I know it's not going to happen. I mean, there are groups here that are trying to lure a franchise, but every time I go in there, I can just envision the Kentucky Colonels, and that's the thing I always miss about the ABA, and that's when I always think about how good the Denver Nuggets were year after year after year, but never had anything to show for it. Nothing. I think even the Pittsburgh Pipers had a championship. Do you remember them?
Yeah, remember them? But Denver never could get over the hump. They always got stuck. Like one year it was in the championship, and the Nets got them. I think in the conference final one year, I think the Colonels got them.
Yeah.
So it was always somebody that got them.
Yeah. Here's a trivia question for you, John. What ABA team moved here for one season?
What ABA team
Moved to
besides the
Washington.
Kentucky Colonels?
No, wasn't the Kentucky
I
Colonels.
said besides the Kentucky Colonels.
Oh, besides, yeah. But yeah, what ABA team moved to Washington for one season that won an ABA championship?
You got me. What team was that?
Oakland Oaks with Rick Barry.
And then when they moved, excuse me, they moved to Washington, they became the Washington Caps, right?
Right. And then they played one season here, moved to Virginia, became the Virginia Squires.
Wow.
Who
Virginia
then I think
Squires.
who then became, I want to say, the New York Nets.
Wow.
Yeah, that's always amazing. Anyway, let's see. Well, we got John, we have a little time to talk about Major League Baseball because at the end of this broadcast, the Tampa Bay Rays will be going for history with a 14-0 start. As impressive, as fun as that is to watch, I think the stat is that only the handful of teams that have done that have really turned that into a playoff berth. I do want to believe in the Tampa Bay Rays because they're not too many years removed from being in the World Series. They are a perennial contender in a tough American League East. But again, this is a long season, and how sustainable is that?
Gary, let me be very clear. I don't believe in the Tampa Bay Rays. I'm not rooting for them tonight. The Orioles are already 6 games behind the Rays. I need the Rays to lose tonight. But it doesn't look really good because the Rays are sending on the mound tonight Drew Rasmussen, who is 2-0 with an ERA of 0. Toronto is sending to the mound tonight Jose Barrios, who is 0-2 and an ERA of 11.
John, next week we'll be talking about history, and hopefully next week will be a short turnaround for us because let's see. I'm trying to think what else is coming up this weekend what is coming up next week that we can talk about. And no, I'm not going to say NHL playoffs because that's a little bit above our pay grade, even though I'm a hockey fan. But oof. Yeah, what do we talk about next week?
Next week, you got the first round of playoffs. Next week, you talk about the Tampa Bay Rays and the first loss of the season that they suffered tonight against Toronto. You also talk about the
Wait a minute.
Orioles.
Wait a minute. I thought you said they might win tonight based on the probables.
Well, I still need the probables not to go right. That's why you play the game, Gary. You need to go out there and play the game. I need them to lose. The Orioles need to beat the White Sox tonight, and then we'll go from there. We'll be able to talk about some of these NBA playoff games next week. It'll be exciting, man. We're going to have some stuff to talk about, and just to not to go into deep about it, just so you know, with hockey, the Washington Caps let their coach go today, Peter Laviolette. He is gone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's one I hadn't seen. Honestly, I was waiting for that because there's been a lot of house cleaning since the season ended. Pittsburgh has cleaned house. The Chicago Blackhawks, a perennial Stanley Cup team, traded away Patrick Kane, and then Jonathan Taves played his last game with the Blackhawks this week. So it was just a matter of time. And it'll be interesting, John, to see what the Capitals do going forward with their roster as well as with their coaching staff, and maybe even in their front office, because obviously after you win a Stanley Cup, the hard part is repeating that success, duplicating that formula. And thank you, Washington Capitals, for basically giving Washington, I'll say, a grand slam of championships in sports, which is really hard for a lot of cities to do, in all four major sports. And those 2 or 3 years between the Capitals, the Mystics, and the Washington Nationals were probably, the best years as a native Washingtonian watching long distance. But that was probably the most rewarding period as a sports fan, as a Washington sports fan in my life, because I didn't see any of those coming, and especially the Nationals. And as someone who grew up watching really bad Senators baseball, but knowing every single player on the roster and loving, the Frank Howards and the Ken McMullins and that sort, and watching the Washington Capitals from their inception to hoisting the cup 3 years ago, 4 years ago. No, wait a minute, 5 years ago. Gosh, years have flown by. But with that, it becomes harder to maintain success, and Alex Ovechkin is not getting any younger.
Well, it's a lot to see. The Caps may have some hard time making some moves because of salary cap issues, but we'll see what happens. It was another exciting season in hockey. And man, let me tell you something. Thank you for making this show today exciting and coming back to it. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. So go ahead and take us home, Gary.
Well, hey, I'm glad we're back in the saddle because I felt like there was a whole lot I was holding in that I wanted to discuss, but hey, real life matters more, John. I'm glad that you're healthy. I'm glad that you're recovering, and listen to your body, save your strength. We can do this anytime, but I don't want to take anything for granted that you're going to be here tomorrow, let alone next week. So take care of yourself. I'm going to take care of myself. John Pitt, you take care of yourself. And folks, take care of yourselves and each other, and keep really people close to you. It's been a tough week here in Louisville with the tragic murders on Old National Bank. Something that I've had to follow as a reporter this week. Only thing I can say is, again, just really keep everybody in Louisville in prayer on that, because it's something that, again, tomorrow's not promised, and what happened Monday morning is something that nobody expected to happen on their doorstep, and that we just have to do better as a people. That's all I could say. I know that that's not sports, but that's just something from the heart that I felt. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad John Pitt is here. And folks, we are glad that you're here watching. Tell your friends, tell your family, watch us on YouTube, watch us on Facebook, watch us wherever you can, because we're going to be sending you links now that we're back together.
Hey, thanks you all for watching us this week. My hearts and prayers go out to everyone in Louisville with the unfortunate circumstance. Get a chance this week, watch some sports, come back and see us next week. Take care. See ya.